Hey, what's up, fam? Thank y'all for tuning in once again. As always, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, hit the notification bell so every time I drop a video, you will be the first to know about it. Hey, let's get into this topic. This week was the celebration of the federal holiday of Juneteenth. Now, personally, being from Texas, I know about Juneteenth pretty much all my life, long as far back as I can remember. And I feel, with that being said, I feel that Juneteenth should not be a national holiday, especially the way that it's going and how they're trying to co-opt it with this whole Pride Month bullcorn, and then, that's a whole nother story. Because if you think about this, all this outrage and uproar and it's pushing this pride stuff in your face with the elemental P's, if you look at it, it's mainly the transgender community that's pushing this, not necessarily like, gay and, lesbian men and women. But that's another story. Yeah, I don't think it should be a national holiday. I think it should just be for us for Texas, because other states, they already had the slaves free, and there's other states who found out about it at different times after the Emancipation Proclamation. So Texas was just the last state, because it was the furthest south, the furthest west state that was that had slaves. So like I said, but teach his own. But I think it should just be a state holiday. Where, now if you want to celebrate, that's fine. But as a national holiday, nah. But anyway, so there was this, I guess, a radio show or someone called into a TV show and pretty much said that we should thank white people for freeing the slaves. But I'm gonna get into it because I think there's a few facts that there's a major misunderstanding. And I think if he really understood exactly what happened, I don't think he would make such an asinine statement. But I'm getting this from Newsweek.com, and it says, Republican complains black people don't thank white people for a civil war. Now, as you see, first word is Republican. So you already know this is a co-opted, a piece. Probably Newsweek or whoever wrote this, probably, Democrats, and that, it's getting closer, to the presidential election, the more that they can put out there to make Republicans look bad, and the more that Republicans can put stuff out there to make Democrats look bad, they're gonna do it. When, really, if you got any sense of the matter, who cares what anybody else say? My thing is, what are you doing for my vote, for my people, for the community as a whole? If you're not doing anything for us, come on. People just shouldn't vote just because somebody just a mean Republican or a mean Democrat and just say forget the vote for y'all. But anyway, let's get into the article and we'll knock out a few details along the way. It says, a Republican caller from Texas used his time on C-SPAN's Juneteenth program to suggest that black Americans should thank white people for the end of slavery. Now, again, like I said, I don't think Juneteenth should be a national holiday. I don't think it was created for the reason why they want us to believe it was created. It's all about politics. It's all about votes. It's about trinkets. Nothing tangible for our people. Just to say that Republicans are racist, but we gave you a holiday. And again, if you listen to us with my videos and videos of other content creators, they'll tell you, y'all done stuff for every other group of people, but not for us. And it's like, to repair what has been done throughout since the inception of this country. Period. Regardless if it's constitutional or not, what y'all did was unconstitutional. Well, no, take that back, because slavery was legal. But unfortunately, now that it's not, y'all haven't done anything towards preparative justice, and we just want to sit back and, Say, well, I guess ain't nothing else we can do, and nothing else can be done. Well, that's something we can't do. We just ain't gonna vote, but we do have to do what we can do individually for our households and for our community, and go from there. Make them hand out the reparation checks. Anyway, it says, quote, I haven't heard any black person say thank you to the over 300,000 white men who died to free those black slaves. A man who called himself Dave said during Monday's call-in program. More than 592,000 people died in the American Civil War, including 334,680 Union soldiers who fought for the abolition of slavery, according to the National Park Service. So basically, majority of the people that died were Union soldiers. It's just that the Confederate Army just pretty much ran out of supplies. That's basically what ended the Civil War, to tell you the truth. They ran out of supplies and ran out of soldiers, and so the Union won. But anyway, the Union Army included over 2.4 million white soldiers and more than 178,000 African American soldiers. Dave said he had, quote, not heard one white Democrat apologize for slavery, and that his ancestors, who were from Scotland and Ireland, never owned slaves. So I'm kind of wondering, why is this dude even in this conversation? Because basically, you ain't even from this. I mean, your ancestors wasn't even from this country, and they didn't own slaves. So basically, you are arguing for what reason, I don't know. But let's go back up and again reread this. I haven't heard any black person say thank you to the over 300,000 white men who died to free those black slaves. Well, Dave, I sure hate to break it to you like this, but they didn't die to free the slaves. They died to keep the Union together. Because the Civil War, quick history lesson, which I'm sure a lot of you should know this, is not to let you know the schools are not teaching you anything and you're not teaching yourself anything. But the Civil War was started because Abraham Lincoln said he had to do whatever he could to keep the Union together, because the South making all this money, because the South had all the agriculture, right? The cotton, the sugar, rice, whatever, major crops that could be exported across the country and across the world. So the South was making a lot of money, and they were using very cheap labor, i.e. slaves. And South was just feeling themselves. They're like, well, shoot, they want to follow the regulations of the Union, of the North. So they're like, well, shoot, we're the Confederate state, we'll build our own, our own section of the country, and then we're gonna separate from y'all because y'all trying to hold us back. And Abraham Lincoln like, no, because if we let the South secede, then it's gonna not only break the Union, but it's gonna break the North, and it's gonna be a problem. So we need to go ahead. We need to tell them to don't stop thinking about this, or we're gonna go ahead and have to fight and take over the government, pretty much. And that's what happened. Now, while they're fighting in the Civil War, while they're fighting or whatever, Abraham Lincoln drafts this Emancipation Proclamation. He threatens the South with it, saying, hey, if y'all don't stop all this like revolting against the Union, then I'm going to sound this as Emancipation Proclamation, and it's going to end slavery. So basically, if we can't make no money, then you're not going to make no money. And if this is if this is what's causing this rift between the North and the South, well, I'm just going to end slavery altogether. So then, then what? So the fighting continued. So that's when January 1st, it was 1863. Yeah, 1863, he signed the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing the slaves from all southern states except the ones that bordered the northern states. Because the northern states, states. I mean, because the North needed those bordering states. They needed the slave labor in order to keep fighting and to stay economically afloat. Crazy, and jacked up in it. Nah, that's how they think. So in Texas, yes, it was one of the states that slavery was abolished in 1863 or what have you. So once the Emancipation Proclamation is signed, because also during the Civil War, the South were using their slaves to build their weapons and make the clothes, work in the hospitals and all that kind of stuff. So the South was really holding their own in this Civil War, like as you see with these stats, out of almost little less than 600,000 deaths, over half, 60% of them were Northern soldiers. So the South was pretty much holding their own in this Civil War, and so when Abraham Lincoln signed his Emancipation Proclamation, black folks took off running. All of them going north. Now, also, mind you, since we're going to try to act like the North love black people so much, soldiers didn't even want the black people in the army. You know what I'm saying? They didn't even want them serving in the military alongside them. So make sure you understand that. Remember that. But anyway, Abraham Lincoln said that the black soldiers, black slaves, they make it to the North, they can join the Union Army and help fight the South. Well, shoot, naturally, that's what a lot of them did. They said 100-something thousand, almost 178,000 of them made it up there and fought on the Union side, which depleted the South because, one, you got slaves leaving the plantation because a lot of states, a lot of plantation owners were trying to hide slaves. The slaves were leaving the plantations, running to the North, or they leaving these factories, leaving these hospitals, going to the North. That just depleted everything from the South to where they just had to give up. Because it was going to be inevitable. Abraham Lincoln did a very smart strategic move. Because he wasn't trying to free the slaves. Matter of fact, he said if the slave was free, he should send them back to Liberia. That's where that little colony in Africa started, because from free slaves or whatever. So, Mr. Davis, what's his name? Dave. You saying that over 300 white men who died to free those black slaves, that is a misquote. That is not true. So they died because Abraham Lincoln told them to, because they needed to keep the Union together. So back to the question. Should we think, let's see, what they say, Republican, complaining black people don't thank white people for the Civil War. So should we, should we thank them for the Civil War? Or should we thank them for freeing the black slaves? I think the Most High. That's what I think. Because trust me, if it was up to them soldiers back in the day, they could care less if we were slaves. Probably still be slaves right now, but if it was up to the powers that be. It was for, I want to thank the Most High for allowing them folks to create capitalism. Because if it wasn't for greed from one side, and greed is always in the end going to cause destruction of major countries, major companies, hell, even families are destroyed in one shape, form, or another because of greed. And greed was one of the deadly sins mentioned in the Bible. So with that being said, like I said, I think the Most High, and that's as far as I'm gonna go. So Mr. Dave, next time you get on here and try to talk about Democrats and saying, because truthfully, before I thank them for freeing the slaves, first need to ask who created slavery in this country, who allowed it, who put it that it could be pretty much legal to have slaves, and to ratify or to approve the three-fifths compromise or whatever. People think people think with that the three-fifths part of the laws that said that means more than three-fifths of a man, of a person. No, that's not what that means. Quick little side note, and then I'm done. The three-fifths, is it a compromise? Or, I don't know exactly where it is. I'm going off the dome right now. I can look it up. Matter of fact, let me go and look it up right quick. I think it's compromise. Yeah, three-fifths compromise. I ain't that too far off for that, huh? It say it was determined. See, because people think that three-fifths compromise means that you are three-fifths of a person, but that's not what that means. It says, in quick quote, the three-fifths compromise was reached among state delegates during the 1787 Constitutional Convention. It determined that 3 out of every 5 slaves were counted when determining a state's total population for legislative representation and taxation. So basically, it's not saying that you're three-fifths of a man. It's saying basically, out of the 5 of y'all, we're gonna count 3 of y'all for votes and taxation. But other than that, y'all still child slavery. So, as you know, a lot of people who listen and don't read and don't understand you gave it too much credit, but then you gave it on one hand, and on the other hand, you didn't give it enough credit. Too much credit saying I'm three-fifths of a man, when really they still trying to choose child slavery. You know, other one you're not giving it enough credit because you're not understanding that it's saying that 3 out of 5 of y'all will be counted for taxation. But in the middle, still child slavery. Anyway, tell me what you think about this story. Leave your comment below and then share it with the world. With that being said, I leave you with peace. And I'll see you on the other side.